Right. All right, we're
Y'all hear
live,
it?
guys.
Huh?
You hear it?
The wind? No, we
Oh,
can't hear it.
No. You ever notice
Is it
that's the
like a
one thing you
spooky?
can't pick up through microphone?
Is
it's
what?
Nine
so
times out
weird.
of ten, when
I mean,
somebody's
because
like,
That
it's
"Yo,
doesn't
I'm going
sound
crazy,"
real.
no,
like
really
it,
is. Shit.
like that's
Oh,
crazy.
it's like one of
Yeah.
those whippy winds that you can like hear it in the
Like
walls and
in like
shit.
it's like loud whistling. Like that's what's like you can't hear it. I'm
Wow.
surprised you can't hear it, and it's been like that for days.
That shit was. We had it like
Wow.
about a week ago. It was like that about 3-4 days straight, every day. Like I know. I don't think we only had a wind advisory one day, but it was from like 3 in the morning to 7 at night or some silly shit like that. So
Oh wow.
It's wild because it's
Alright.
literally 80 degrees, and it just
it's hard. Let me tell you.
that wind is whipping through here. Now we're under a dust storm advisory. It's just
Goddamn. Hazmat trucks blowing up all over the country. It's all types of shit
Right.
happening.
it's real bad.
Yo, whatever happened to the cyclone that was supposedly the size of Canada? Do we know if that did land over there? What was that supposed to hit?
When did that
It
happen?
was somewhere
I
in the
missed
Indian
that.
Ocean.
Oh
I
shit! I
seen it
missed
Oh
last
that.
week.
shit.
No, but I
Okay.
mean, I seen it last week. They said that shit, but I'm like, the cloud itself, the size of Canada, my nigga. Like,
All
that's
right,
listen.
meteorologist Rose.
I was like, yeah,
We are
it's giving murder hornet. I mean,
right.
I don't know. Whatever happened to it? Are they still doing murders, or did
Real
I
they?
shit.
don't know.
As fucked
No.
up as
Maybe
it
they're like,
sound, as fucked up as it sound, we all waiting for the first nigga to die from a murder hornet sting.
it's just like I feel like we put too much like pressure on him, and like he had like the heat was too on, so he was like, I shouldn't be murdering in this climate. You know, niggas is expecting me to murder. You feel me?
Yeah,
he had niggas
somebody
back
like
out
put
on him in the end and shit. Like, y'all ain't coming? Ah.
who all the murder hornet, like, who all gonna be there, and they was like, never mind. My anxiety is doing.
Right.
Ain't fuck
Right.
with it.
I haven't seen some of these people in years, so I'm
Right.
just.
It's
I'm
fine. I
like,
don't have to be. I don't have to be there. Go ahead. You guys have
I
fun.
thought
We
we was
won't.
singing in South America. You want me to go into regular America? I can't fuck with it, dog.
It's okay. We're
Can't fuck
good.
with
We're gonna hang out. Just gonna drink some wine at home. We're gonna just murder hornet wine. We're fine. We got it.
exactly.
Yo.
Exactly.
Before we jump into it, what y'all think about the nigga from Dilbert? Y'all ain't hearing
Like
about
the
the
like the nigga
creator?
that draws it.
Yeah, the creator of
Well, he
Dilbert
went on
went
a
off
racist
today.
rant. Well, he got fired. So
Yeah.
Okay,
And
wait.
he
What
said if
happened?
you
What would he
white,
do?
he said if you white, get as far away from black people as you can. He said that he was talking about how the like black white people getting their ass whooped by us is like, I forgot the percentage he pulled out, but he said, he was like, yo, trying to help black people, it doesn't work. You just end up losing in the end. He was like, so get get as far away as you can. He was like, do what I did and move into a community where there's the least black population. Then what he tried to do, and they do this all the time. He took Don Lemon words and he tried to motherfucking use them as darts, as if Don Lemon was being vicious towards his own people. He said, Don Lemon even said he had less altercations in the white neighborhood than he did in the black neighborhood. Like, word, bro. And he just
Leave Don out of this.
right.
Like,
And he
Don is
just
the
went off.
boring. Like, leave Don alone. Also, Don is rich, and all of his neighbors are probably fucking white, and so
yeah.
you are more than
Exactly.
And that's not him avoiding black people. That's
Right. That's what
living in
I'm
his
like,
means.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like,
also
don't try to
like
do Don
he's
like
still
that.
a nigger to them. So of course they're avoiding altercations with the
Come
one
on.
nigger they know. Like
Yeah, blood
they're
pressure.
If you
not
get into a
calling
fight
the
with him, you can't count him as the black people, you know.
like they're looking like I know him from TV, but also he's black. I'm not going over there with the like they just not
Right.
bothering him.
Yeah,
But
Right.
he
they
got
went off.
fired, and that's what happens at the intersection of fuck around and find out. So Godspeed.
But like, I guess my question is, who asked this nigga?
Nobody.
Like
Not a
he
soul.
just woke up one day and was like, you know what? Let me make a
Pulled
point.
his
Like,
time. Turned on the
did
camera.
like a black person like hurt his feelings, or like what happened? Like he just
You
woke
know,
up in 2023.
I was just
You
like,
know?
fuck, I choose violence.
He chose
No, he got a
violence.
black character in that shit.
And Dilbert, nah. Dilbert was the white boy with the dog.
I know, but it wasn't like no nigga in the office. Like,
Not that I
no.
remember.
Not that I remember. I mean, I haven't looked at a comic strip in
I
years,
mean,
so I
yeah.
mean, God bless
Hey,
him
Right.
for
man.
still having a job.
When they put
Who written Dilbert, my nigga?
Like he had a job. Like that's crazy. Like you work in like newspaper, like print. Like you should be like your profile should be low. Like
bro.
You should be saying a motherfucking thing, bro, because it's like 5 newspapers still in circulation. He should have shut the fuck up. Like you should be glad you had a job this long, and now you want to go be a racist. Lord, they're crazy. Is something in Mercury? Is something in retrograde? Is it Venus?
I mean, honestly, I feel like in the last year and a half, like it's just all been in Mercury.
Everything in retrograde because these folks just saying anything that Ben Stein man was crying about how he missed Aunt Jemima.
Yeah, girl, like what?
Listen, time out. I'm gonna be real.
It don't even taste different, y'all.
I'm gonna keep it a buck. Ben Stein wasn't being racist. If you really think about what he said,
go ahead.
Go look at that video. Now, let me say this. You all already know I'm not about to defend racism, but when he said, yo, now I don't agree with what he said. What he said was I was used to a fat black woman on it. Now, the choice of words there crazy, but in essence of him saying put her back, he literally said that this is what you get when you have racism. You know what I'm saying? I'm not defending the dude at all. Like, well, I'm not defending racism.
He's saying that it's racist to not let her be on the bottle.
He's saying the fact that he was like, yo, y'all didn't even put anybody on the bottle. You know what I'm saying? Now he did try to defend it with saying that her family said it wasn't racist. Now that's not what I'm like. No, fuck that part. I don't think he was.
No, her family ain't said it was racist. What her family said was that y'all have been capitalizing on a character of our family member for many, many years, and we would like you to pay us the monies to continue
and they ain't paying them shit.
Her likeness. Right. And they said, you know,
and so what? Instead they was like, you know what? In solidarity, we just gonna
they was like, off. And here's our chance to look like we love black people and not pay you any money.
Yeah, and I think bro just went. Now again, if he was being racist, he was being racist. The way it looked like to me, bro went and got a fucking bottle of Aunt Jemima and was surprised. So I'm not defending it. I just don't think it was as racist
and
as people were trying to say it was.
He's
and
old.
Again, who dug him up as well, y'all? Like
he's old and white, and all that sounds like to me is his old white ass needs to be taking some of that money that he has and buying some fucking authentic maple syrup and stop eating that shit any fucking way. Like,
ooh, I got a confession.
He's aging like lettuce. You're hunched over. He fucking peaked when he was saying Ferris Bueller's name over and over. It's time. Let it go.
I do not like 100% maple syrup. I don't like it.
Whoa.
But you're black and you're entitled to that. He's not entitled to anything.
No, but you from, I don't know. I thought being black,
I hear you.
Midwest, meant you like that shit.
No, nigga. First of all, I never even had real maple syrup, and so I moved to the West Coast. And no, really.
I don't know. My granddaddy. I don't know. My people.
I mean, if I can be honest, like
you don't like it either.
Yeah. What?
So we grew up because my parents are very Southern. Like. It's not Aunt Jemima. It is a company called Blackburns, and it is like a molasses honey butter syrup. Like it is a thick, like
that sounds.
That's what you grew up eating.
Is it like the Argo, like the Argo syrup?
That shit probably thicker than Argus.
Kind
or whatever it's called.
Yeah, kind of like.
Because I like that.
It's a very thick, like if you kind of squeeze it, it's like a honey consistency.
When did that shit have corn on the fucking damn label or something? It's like,
yep, and I was doing this with my syrup with my pancakes. Yes.
So you know, maybe he doesn't need to have 100% maple, but maybe he shouldn't be surprised that there's not a fat black lady there. Like, relax, dude.
I mean, maybe I just make it taste better. I mean, when I know a fat black lady cook my food, it make it taste better to me. So,
yo, and I think that's what got people to. He did say that shit. Make you think of black people cooking your food or some shit like.
Like I don't think that he tried to be racist. Right. It just came across racist because you can't be yelling about a fat black lady cooked your food like your mammy when you was growing up was
but look,
the housemaid was frying your bacon, bro. Like you can't do
if
that.
a younger said right now, if a youngin said right now that this Verde sauce, this green sauce made me feel like it's Mexicans in the back, nobody's gonna say anything about that. It's wrong. So I get what you're saying. That man was like, yo, this because now one of us,
because it's wrong. Make no mistake.
If one of us was to be like, yo, one of y'all give me some food, and I'll be like, yo, this tastes like a fat black lady made it. Of course, nobody's gonna say that because we are us. But in essence of the connotation of what he was saying, yeah, we can't be racist towards our own, and we also know it was a joke. I think bro was saying it in that same energy, but yeah, you can't say that, white man.
I forgot he was Ben Stein. Like he misplaced some things.
I know. I feel like he think right. I don't know.
Yeah.
Does this say hide your kids, hide your wives on the
who? When?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's who you represent.
Yeah.
Aw, he seems.
I mean, we're talking about Amber Alerts and shit.
Oh,
yeah, we're talking about
black one who was hiding.
High alert. So I thought, yeah. I mean, somebody just mentioned him the other day. Like, he had the best fucking flat iron in life. Hi.
Hey.
What up, though?
All right, so I guess
something after it.
All right, so I guess we can start. We just been kind of talking about Angel Mima and shit, but anyway, hi guys, welcome to another episode of All Docked Up. I'm Chris. That's Penrose. That's VJ. Although it should be like that. There we go.
Surprise, you're doing something different today.
All right, and we're here today to talk about a little more serious than the last documentary, although I want to say shout out to everybody who tuned in to Call Me Miss Cleo. That was a very fun one. It was very fun for us.
Shout out to her life partner for hitting us up.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, he hit us up and told us we were dope. So like that's cool. It's always like super cool when like people that we are talking about actually somehow find us on the internet. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Dope.
And shots out really the only person that was mad was dude from
oh shit, from this cult
4-5 or 5-7 or 1856 or whatever the fuck.
No, not the cop guy. He wasn't upset. It was the fucking cult guy that was upset.
Yeah,
with
the cop
and
guy.
He like fucking went off.
The cop guy gave us mad love. Just so happened he was the one that snitched, but he gave us mad love.
Yeah, he was the snitch. We was talking about he was Snitchy McGee, but he did. He's like told the story.
I did. You're right.
Yeah, but nah.
I mean, we were just telling the story, my guy. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Yeah, the cult one.
But yeah, it was the we shouldn't say cult because it's not a cult, right? But the religious group one that we did.
The one where dude was flying dude to Hawaii.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that the one? Yeah.
Right.
I think so. With the fucking dude with the long hair, and he had that fucking. He made like a R&B song or some shit, like something like.
We done talked about a lot of shit, yo. We
really have. Like we really have.
We didn't cross the spectrum in this motherfucker, boy.
This was on the opposite end of the spectrum. This was It was. Okay, so I'm just gonna preface this to say I didn't really like this one.
That's fair. That's fair. I didn't love it either,
and not from a standpoint of it was like the subject matter. I did not like it. Just the way it is put together, and it's just very. We know it. I don't know. It's hard to explain why I didn't like it. So I'm going to try to make this quick. But it just seemed like it was a lot of footage of Amber. And maybe this was just their chance to talk about Amber. Because really there's not a whole, like for it to be an hour and a half. And it was just a lot of video footage.
A lot of the same video footage. Oh, did we lose her? Oh, there she is. No, I was saying a lot of the like kind of the same footage. Like we kind of recycled a bunch of stuff, but I mean that is also because we just happen to have only like a small amount of this footage from this documentary that they were making.
That's very true, but like I don't know. I okay. So let me not say I didn't like it. I do feel like it was unnecessary and how long it was, but we know me, so I ain't gonna front. This shit didn't seem all right. Well, all of the shit that we done learned about, all of this dumb shit they done to people and families, just like that we don't know about in the 80s and 90s. This shit didn't seem a little. All of a sudden, we got these people watching these people. This lady who didn't have shit. This happens. The day we about to put it out, this happens. Like that shit didn't seem a little on purpose to y'all.
Okay,
I mean,
Kareem, relax.
I mean, but listen, Kareem. Apparently, people like the police thought that. Remember, like there was a point where they thought that maybe that was
right. They did, and I mean, we can get into it so we can get there. But I just feel like, remember when we did the one about the 3 twins?
Okay, yeah.
And then
did we do that, or did we watch? Did we do that, or did we watch it?
Did we talk about that amongst ourselves?
I don't know. Maybe we talked about. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. The ones that were like
identical shit. But yes.
Yeah, yes. But remember, we found out this was a fucking social experiment.
Yeah.
And we found out there's a lot of shit in the 80s and the 90s. There's a lot of shit in the 80s and 90s that came out as social experiments. A lot of shit. And so I'm not saying that this is what happened because I would never want to water down or derail the actual movement of somebody's movement or water down somebody's death. But just the way that all of this happened.
Okay. Let's get into it, right?
Yeah.
So Amber Hagerman is Amber, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
How old was she? 9?
9.
So Amber was 9. This I think was interesting because I'm a little bit older than Crystal, but younger than Penrose. But she and I were born a few months apart in the same year. So relatively speaking, if Amber Hagerman was still alive, she would be my age.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been an unsolved cold case in Arlington for a very
for all of our life.
Yeah, essentially for as long as we've been alive.
Right.
And I think it is probably one of their oldest remaining open cold cases at this, if I am not mistaken.
It is really creepy, y'all, how stuff really goes cold like this. Like it's like troublesome. Because the situation that we have here seems like something that somebody should have saw something more than what they said they saw.
Yeah. Somebody should have saw something more. You're not gonna tell me where. All right, I guess because there's no real way to get into it because it's really not. When you really think about it, what we can talk about is really not that much because, like VJ said,
it's really not that much.
But
yeah, if we have a lot of footage here, and basically all this footage comes from a welfare documentary that was being done by Pam Curry, and this. So a lot of this footage that we see is from roughly about August 1995, which is about 5 months before Amber Hagerman was abducted. So this is our starting point for where we're seeing pictures and stuff. So we get interviews with her mom and her brother and other people, but essentially that's where all of this footage is coming from. They were doing a welfare documentary where they wanted to find women with single mothers with children who were on welfare and discuss ways
trying to get off. Yeah.
Right. Discuss ways to help them get off of welfare or whatever. This sparkling water is beating my ass. It is whooping my ass. It's so good, but it is beating me down. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm over here hiccuping under my breath. Okay, go ahead. I'm so sorry.
So that's where, like VJ was saying. So she gonna drink some more of it.
I sure am.
Trying to clean up these bubbles with bubbles.
Yep. So, but that's what a lot of the footage is coming from. Amber is the oldest of 2 children. She has a younger brother. And I guess we'll just talk about what happened because it's not really that much to really talk about the documentary that they were making. That's what the documentary was about. That's what they were following her for.
And it's only really beneficial in the sense of the actual timeline in regards to what happened to this little girl. Because
also true.
Like VJ said, they started in August of 95.
Right.
She is, to get right into it, what's going on, Jay?
Hi, Jay.
To get into it in January 3rd. No, when did she turn 9? She turned 9 somewhere. Yeah. January 13th, I think.
Okay, I'll find out. Go ahead.
It
So
was
January 13th is actually when she was abducted.
That's when she went missing. My bad. All right.
Yeah.
So Pete. Anyway, the whole thing, and for everybody that's listening to watching, the length of the documentary is vitally important because it ended the day that she went missing. They stopped shooting the day before. They wrapped everything up. What's up, Boda?
Hey.
The exact day before
before they were ready to broadcast this on television.
No. The day before she went missing, they finished it. It was a wrap. The day before the day they wanted to broadcast it, that's when they found it. That same day.
Oh, right. The day that they would have broadcasted it. Because to be clear, guys, none of this stuff ever aired on TV.
Right. And so
because she went missing before they could release it.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. So after that, the documentary ain't really all that important because it showed her what she said she was sleeping in her car for 2 days because she was running from her husband, wouldn't go to the parents' house, went to the women's shelter. Women's shelter helped her get a crib. And
that's where they found her.
Yeah. And then that's when they started doing their thing. And that's how the show found her. So
okay, so the bike ride. The day that she goes missing.
January 13th, 1996.
Right.
Okay. Her and her little brother are visiting their grandmother's house. At their grandmother's house, that's where they keep their bikes. They go riding every time they go there, right? Nothing new. This particular day, though, they do take a detour and go somewhere that they normally don't go to. They went to was it an abandoned grocery store parking lot, or was it like was the grocery store like active and shit?
Nah, it wasn't.
It was abandoned. It was a Winn-Dixie.
Okay.
It used to be a Winn-Dixie. Yeah. So it used to be a Winn-Dixie. Winn-Dixie, if you don't know, is a regional supermarket. Yes.
Right.
There aren't a lot of them still around. So at the time in 96, Winn-Dixie was probably still popular some places, but that was something that was kind of going us down. There's actually not a lot of them in Texas either to begin with. So this parking lot in the back where they were is where I guess essentially what would be like the grocery delivery bay. So that's where the cargo,
like the load, like the dock for them to load in groceries and stuff from the big trucks, right?
And so they have like the ramps up and down. So they would go play in this parking lot so they could ride up and down the ramps on their bicycle, but they were instructed that they weren't supposed to go without somebody. So typically their bicycle route was a triangle essentially, right? So they would go up one street, make a right, go down that street, make another right, and then circle back home is the way that Ricky explained it. And instead of taking that right and going back to their grandparents' house, they made a left.
Right.
And that's how they ended up in the parking lot.
Right.
And she's doing bike parkour and getting off, getting her jumps and her leaps off, right? Her brother's like, hey, look, fam, it's way too, I'm not feeling good about this. This isn't normally where we be at. Let's get the fuck up out of here. And she's like, all right, one more fucking 360 and we up out of here.
Right.
So
I'm right behind
you. Go ahead. Right, I'm right behind you. I just have to get this jump off and I'm up out of here. Okay. So he starts going and he never looks back.
That's what we're told.
That's what we're told.
I'm for me, maybe he didn't. But I mean, anytime we done been together, anybody remember being small, man? Nobody just takes off and never looks back. I just want to say that part.
See, that's the thing. It just feels like, because even when they speak to him and he's talking about the incident and he was talking about part of it being a blur, like I'm not. None of us are professional psychiatrists, psychologists. We cannot give you any type of medical advice.
Right.
None of this is actual diagnosis. Just before we. Please do not.
Right.
Do not have any motherfucking money. Do not.
We are so don't even.
Don't
You're
do
gonna
it.
waste so much money trying to get money from us.
We don't have anything. So yeah, just this. This is us just talking, but it just seems like maybe he is blanking out, or maybe his subconscious is not
something very traumatic.
Something, or he maybe saw some scary man. He is not remembering something because he was so small. Right. Even because your mind will see things, and because you're not focused on it, a lot of times you don't process it, which is why we can be looking at one thing and there can be other things going on over here, and it can be the strangest shit ever, and we just our mind catches it, but until later we don't think about it. You're like, was that a man in a panda suit?
Right,
with a baby goat over there? By then he's gone by it. And so it feels like maybe he's misremembering or not remembering something, because it's crazy that he just doesn't. He just like got on the bike and just run away and never look back, and
until I see Grandpa.
Right, especially considering that the mom was like, stay together. Like, it's so weird that he just never looked back, or they weren't like laughing or maybe racing on the bicycles. I mean, because it's the two of them. So it just seems so strange that there was them headed home and there was no interaction, or he never turned around to talk to her or tell her, hey, do a wheelie, just nothing.
Anything. Like even when she say dip out, even if he started, you're gonna turn around and make sure she's coming out that parking lot with you.
Yeah, you might go ahead, I'm right behind you. And I turn around and be like, hey, Amber, come on, you're not right behind
me. Yeah. And so like you said, I'm not saying that he didn't, but like you said, in relation to what he said on the dock, you know what I mean? He said he don't remember. Or he just remembers, dipping out and then getting to Grandpa's house or whatever. And letting them know where they was at. And in the essence of being there, like Chris said, they was told not to be there. And he goes back to his granddad's house, and granddad asks where he is or where his sister is, and he says, "Yo, she was doing she was riding ramps."
Yeah, she was doing she was doing BMX freestyle in the parking lot of the Winn-Dixie.
Called the half pipe.
Yeah, and Grandpa, because they're not supposed to be there, immediately grabs Ricky, puts him in the truck, and he was like, "Fuck it, we finna go down there." And I that type of comment, like, I knew what that was, right? That's that my kid, I'm finna catch my kid doing some shit they ain't got no business. They finna be in trouble. Like, he absolutely grabbed Ricky and was like, "We finna go over here and catch her in some shit."
Right, facts. He it was nothing in his head about her not being there when he got there.
No,
he was right. He was definitely on that. I'm about to beat some ass tone. Like, what? She where? Let's go.
They was gonna pull up. He was gonna snatch a little butt off that bicycle, put the bicycle in the back of the truck, and they was gonna zoom home, and they was gonna talk to Mama about why they was all around at the Winn-Dixie doing kick flips or whatever on their bicycle. Which that's a skateboard, but they was out there doing wheelies and shit. Yeah.
Hey yo, on the subject, off the subject. I was young, like 6th grade. This chick left her bicycle in my homeboy's backyard. We was just chilling, nothing crazy. But like we heard like some crunching, like this weird noise in this man's voice, right? So we look out the window, and her father down there, it is destroying her bike. Hey man, like just the bike is mangled because I guess he thought, you know what I'm saying? I don't know where she was supposed to be, but I guess he thought, she in there with 2 boys or whatever. But I feel like nothing was going on. But I was just like, when you like, yo, he about to put that joint in the back of the truck. It made me think about that. Mangled the bike, put it in the truck, left, came back, and threw it back in the backyard. And he just yelled, "Yo, and you better bring your bike home." And I was like, "Yo, what's just happened?" And she was scared as hell to go home.
The crazy part is, how is she bringing it home, bro? Like, she's supposed to carry this non-functional bike home, and then when it gets there, you gonna throw it in the trash because you can't fix it.
Yeah, he mangled that joint, bro. It's just, I don't know. That was weird. He jumped to conclusions like a mud. But
very weird. So for some context here, so Amber, this is like a nice day. So this is January in Texas. January in Texas is not. It was a bit unseasonably cold this year. We got snow, but typically I have had Christmases and birthdays where we are in shorts. And whatever, like you can go outside and have a grand old day like it is April sometimes in January. So like they were saying later, it's unseasonably warm. People are in shorts. So there were people out, right? They weren't riding. It wasn't like a desolate cold day where they were bundled up to their eyebrows. It was a relatively nice day. People were outside. Right. But to show you how quickly this type of thing happens, they go bike riding at 3 p.m. And so they are thinking in their minds, Mom is thinking they'll make this circle. We're talking like an 8 to 10 minute circle, maybe. She's thinking they'll be right back after they make the circle. So when she doesn't show, the cops get a call. 911 dispatch takes a call from a guy. This is about 3:18. So not even 20 minutes. A neighbor hears a little girl scream, and he says he goes out to investigate. He sees a black truck parked in the parking lot, and he says that he sees a gentleman. Now, this was very 1990s Texas, because he says he saw a man who was not black.
Who was not, and I was like, nigga, why would you even mention me? Like, if I wasn't there, why are you mentioning me?
It was such a weird descriptor. It was so
he was
strange.
not black.
A gentleman of non-African American descent. Like,
so I don't know if he was saying it as typically this is some shit the blacks do, and I want you to know he's not black, or he was saying it like, I know y'all be trying to hem black people up for shit they didn't do.
It's the Ben Stein shit all over.
It's the Ben Stein. This the Ben Stein right in the fucking middle. Like, I don't know what it is. Is it racism? Know. Is it allies?
I don't know. Like, are you trying to?
Did he say? Did he say
saying like
nigger or nigga?
Did he say it was non-African American, or did he say it was non-African American? It makes a difference.
That, and then I kept thinking, maybe he thinks all like maybe, you know, he thinks like not thinks black people look alike, but like in his mind a black person looks a certain way or skin tone, so he's looking at this person and he doesn't know what else they are, but he's like, they definitely weren't dark skin black. Like I know they weren't black, like not sure about
not the blacks I'm used to.
Right, like they could have been brown or mixed or something like that, but they weren't like full nigga. I know that.
Right. Right.
But he says this, and he says basically like the guy didn't even, like her feet didn't even touch the ground. Like he didn't walk her to the truck. Like he got out, like picked her up off the bike. The bike fell over and just threw her in the truck, and away they went.
Mm-hmm. But he said he made a smooth, regular pace across the parking lot and turned. Wait, I forgot what direction he gave, but
they were saying that he turned left, which would have been back towards the town, as opposed to going the other way and getting off on going off into a freeway and shit and being up out of there.
So that, you know, I don't know, man. That's
interesting, because that would tell you that it's probably somebody over there.
Yeah,
but that wasn't enough information for them.
I mean, okay, for me, these cops, every time it was almost like some niggas who knew something, but they couldn't really say what they knew, because everybody was just every turn they just like, just wasn't enough evidence. Like, what are you doing, G? Like,
well, I mean, it was 96, and that's what I'm saying. Like this happened in literally, the guy called 911. They pull up there. The police officer shows up, and it's Jimmy and Jimmy the grandpa and Jimmy the guy who called 911, and Ricky's in the truck, and they're standing there with their hand on their hip like this, you know, they got the ball cap off, and they're all standing there staring at this pink bicycle, and that's it. Like, there's nothing else. It's a knocked over bicycle in a parking lot with no fingerprints, no blood, no fibers. Like, let's be real.
I get it. I get it.
And then also factor in the fact that the police solve literally 2% of crime. Like, it's very low.
That is a staggering number, bitch. Like,
very low. They do not, like, the crime clearance rate for most like murders is extremely fucking low. It is single digit percentage. So in 1996, like, it was probably half a fucking percent. Like, it was right. Listen, they were just out there swinging in the wind. So
just like there's no books full of notes. Like, I don't know.
I mean, because think about it. When you like, this is a cold case, but think about how many cold case shows you've watched or listened to where somebody pulls out the evidence and goes back through the written notes.
And niggas is like, oh, it was Ricky. Nigga, it was Ricky, obviously, y'all. Like,
not to like steal the shine of this show, but that DeJuan Sims shit in Detroit, like the nigga that went in the mall with his mother on camera, and then his mother left the mall without him, and nobody knows around him. Like, blood, come on.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's a lot of cold cases that is just like, how did y'all not solve this? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, that's wild, but it's like literally like, what is niggas paying y'all for?
And I'm not disparaging anybody who is actually trying to do their fucking job, right? But at the end of, like, you really, in 1996, they had a fucking DNA. They didn't really, like, it wasn't. Could
you imagine being a fucking murder kid in the 90s? Like, nobody would ever fucking, oh my God.
Like, they're solving cases from whenever just now because they're like, oh shit, that blood from 72 is in the freezer. We should run that. Like, that's how
it was a dude I was on a boat with when I was in the Navy. One of the MAs, I don't want to say his name just because of what happened. One of the MAs on the boat. Now you gotta figure I was on the boat. We went to war in 2001, so this had to be like 2002 when we came home, something like that. Blood's brother-in-law was being picked up as we coming home from war. His brother-in-law being picked up for a murder that happened in like 72, because in the 2000s they was able to like check shit and some random shit like. You know what I mean? I don't know what they used to catch this nigga, but it's like, yeah, you're right. Like when you think about the times, a lot of shit just wasn't being used probably to solve shit. So,
like if we was kidnapped in 92, nigga, like we would not be here today. Like niggas would have never found us. Penrose would be a nigga named fucking Marshall living in fucking Vermont and shit. He'd have never knew he wasn't Derek. Like,
right, that's why my real name is Steven or whatever it is.
I know my name is Steven. Like, that is a really wild story, but
yeah, bro.
So they go to like a laundromat and they're like, oh, it's a laundromat nearby. Maybe they saw something. But what they talk about is like basically he headed west back into town. There's a residential neighborhood. There's a little industrial park or whatever. Basically, like somebody should have seen something. Somebody should have seen a man in a black truck with a little girl. But also, it's Texas and everybody has a fucking black truck. Like,
okay, because I mean, again,
like even with me, if I go to work, I have a car. I have the only car in the parking lot. So if somebody said, "Hey, we saw somebody get taken from the redacted parking lot," and they were in a white Acura, then they'd be like, "Okay, well that is Vermeek's car, and somebody has taken her." But if they were like somebody got abducted in a white Ford F-150, they would be like, let us pull the fleet logs. It could be,
did they happen to have personalized plates? Like, can you give me anything else? Like,
yeah, I hear it.
You just asked for 63% of the male staff, bro. Like, what are we talking about?
They would literally be looking through the driving records of 200 people. Like, everyone else has a truck. They would know.
So yeah, they're looking for a very generic fucking car at this point.
Yeah.
Well, and again, this is 1995, and we're talking about the girl that made the alert that gives us all the information. So nobody has this information but the niggas twiddling their thumbs in the cop cars.
And that's what they talk about, right? That they can't they can't really get anything out or going because there is no system, right? They're just like, when something happened like this, you put it on 6 o'clock news, but there was no, hey everybody, this is what we're doing. If somebody went missing, you went to Kinko's and printed flyers the next day. Like, you hope you waited. It was a lot like kids gather around. The 90s were a wild time. Like, we keep saying this, but you had to be.
Y'all don't understand. Yeah.
You don't understand because these kids have grown up with all these screens. Like, and my mom was super protective. So some of this is just colloquialisms that I've heard from other people because she wouldn't let me do too much of anything. But I told me they used to take buses around the fucking city. I didn't ride a city bus until I was
Like, we used to do that.
I know kids.
Yeah, we used to go everywhere in the city.
They would be on the opposite side of town on their bicycles, just whatever.
I rode my bike to the east side. Once I was like 10, riding your bike to the east side, like, it was long. It was stupid, but we did it.
Guys, kids would be outside. You were outside. You had no phones, no pagers. Unless you were inside someone else's home.
Your mama just had to remember what you had on, nigga. Like
they just kind of looked at you when you left the house and then hoped you came back in those clothing before the street lights came on. And that was really it. Like, that was it. People it's not like children didn't get abducted, but people just didn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This case is really it's really weird the whole way it went through.
Like people
one
just
dude, and then you just so happen to abduct her in a parking lot of an abandoned Winn-Dixie, the only other building.
Like, why was he there? Like,
has no windows towards the parking
right
lot.
on the back, right on the side that she got kidnapped. There's no fucking windows or nothing. So nobody on any other side of the building could have seen anything that was happening.
No.
And then the dude that did see something was he was kind of far away.
Oh, yeah.
He heard her scream, and he said it looked crazy to him because he watched him pick a whole child up off a bicycle. Just came back whenever. And so wild. When kids got abducted, like you did that, like a lot of times, to be real, I mean, real honest with you, maybe this is shitty to the police, and if you're a police officer, you mad because we be on y'all's necks, what the fuck ever. But y'all called everybody was a fucking runaway if they were over the age of 12 and under 12. Well, are you sure they just aren't at a friend's house and you maybe don't know where they are? It was a lot of that stalling. I don't really want to.
Do you think maybe they hid that they had a boyfriend or a girlfriend from you?
Like
it was a lot of, I don't really believe your kid is missing. We're gonna sit here for 8 hours, and then maybe if you don't find them by after dinner, I'll send somebody back over to your house and we'll go look after it's dark. Like it was
it was question the parenting before we start an investigation. Like it still is sometimes.
It still is.
Like
I mean, but sometimes they right. I mean, don't ask me how I know.
Look, and sometimes, and I'm not gonna sit here and say that some of these eras were not the Wild fucking West, and these kids were not hitchhiking and shit, right? Like we're talking about.
I'm talking about like
these hitchhiking to go to a fucking concert or fucking
they from the suburbs 8 hours away to like the northern part of California to go fucking watch the Beatles, like just weird.
But what about them kids that really did just like do some dumb shit, like? They was mad at mom, so they dipped out for like 3 days.
They really left.
I feel like you get way more calls that end like that, and they shouldn't take every call the same. But I feel like if like 7 out of 10 calls is that, 2 of them is that just a little bit longer, and then 1 of them is real.
One of them really do got a secret boyfriend.
You don't want that. Sorry, man. You know what I mean? And I don't mean to be rude.
Jay, having big fun with Vanessa. You feel me?
He was having big fun and Baltimore. You know?
Listen.
Exactly. Vanessa was shook, bro. Claire pulled the first. Remember when Pinky was like, "Where you from?" Shut up, nigga. Claire invented that with big fun.
Yeah.
God bless them. Like they're looking for, but basically all you can do is print flyers. And Pam Curry, who did the documentary or whatever, was talking about the fact, she was like, we have this footage that we're sitting on, and it allowed people to see Amber, see what she looked like, see her moving. And it wasn't just a grainy ass photo that we had printed on some flyers at the Kinko's and we're handing out to people and putting them on, like telephone poles and hoping that somebody pays attention that she's missing. They had this footage where you could see her live and in color and see her as a little girl and empathize. That's what they were hoping. That people would see her and they would have a bit more empathy for her being missing and come out to help.
Right.
A
lot of people came out to help, but we see that, and again, I mean, you can attest this because it was the 80s. Help turned into false statements. We had a lady who called the cops, said that. Now let's back to VJ saying, it's Texas in the 90s, like everybody had a black truck. This lady literally calls and gives a half of a license plate number. The cops work with GM to form a database to find a car that with that plate that fits that fits or whatnot. And they search it, and it literally comes to a guy who owns a black truck in what other city? In Arlington, the city that it happened in. And they investigate this guy or whatever. And even that, like I said, I know they can't probably just give up facts and all of that, but they're just like, we looked through his house, and that was enough. And we do find out that this lady made it all up, and we move on, but I don't know, man. I'm gonna keep standing on what I said to begin with. This shit sounded a little shit. This whole situation just sounded extremely shaky to me, man. This seemed like,
yeah, they don't really have any leads on this, and they're looking for this child. They are not finding her. And eventually they do find her, but she's not alive. Trigger warning for that, but yeah.
What was it, 3 weeks? Oh, it wasn't even that long, was it?
4 days.
4 days.
Yeah. So
they find her in a creek, and if you haven't seen this, when you hear this, because I don't know, I just like my mind just was like when I heard this. I don't know too much about Texas, but my uncles always told me it's very easy to become unfound in the South. Meaning, to find somebody behind a creek in a housing complex, nigga, that was super dumb plan because there's a million other places to dump a body in the South. Now, I'm not saying that this little girl should have been dumped. I'm not saying that this little girl should have been murdered, or I'm not advocating that any of this is okay. I'm just standing on the fact that the way that they paraded this family around and then for this to happen just seems a little weird to me. They find this little girl in a creek behind a housing complex, and the way that she is found, just some of the wording that was used kind of threw me off. A man is walking his dog, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
and past midnight. Yeah, past midnight. Now, if I'm not mistaken, they had just talked about in that area of Texas, they had like some rains or whatnot, a lot of water. And dude was walking his dogs past midnight. He walks down to that water behind the house, fenced there, whatever. His dog is doing his thing. And his wife says that he runs into the house, and his exact words are, because she said it, and then when they talk to him later, he said it. He runs right into the house and says, "Babe," or "Honey, I found Amber." Not, "I see a body," not, "It might be Amber," not. And again, I know this is a long time ago and people can be forgetting things, but this interview was way back then when she said this. And she says, husband runs right in and says, "Baby, I found Amber," or "Honey, I found Amber." And it's like,
in his defense, right? Everybody was looking for her. Like, I feel like we're kind of we're not going through the individual days of the search and stuff. Like, I don't know if we're going to.
No, we said it was only 4 days, so I get it. It's fresh when he see it.
Right, but what I'm saying is like a lot of people in the community came out and like are really looking for her. So I think that everybody was on high alert looking for a child.
Touche. You're right. I guess I didn't really see it that way. I mean, I did, but I wasn't.
Like, if a fucking kid disappeared from your fucking 4 or 5 block radius right now,
you're right.
Like, you would be on alert as you're walking to the mailbox, or I'm sorry, you don't live on the West Coast. Your mailbox is at your house, but you know what I'm saying. Like,
actually, where I'm at right now, I'm just on the street, and I was just like,
oh, okay. See, so kind of like it's a little weird, like.
Yeah, no,
like you would be on alert for a kid alone, or
I feel you.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
I just feel
exactly what it is. They're very, very particular, and that's what they wanted, right? This 4 days of massive media coverage. They wanted all of these people out there. They joke in there, and when they're talking about it in the documentary, they said, this is. I didn't think I realized what a media circus was. Right. Until they saw it. All of these all of
vans everywhere,
cars, all of these microphones everywhere. I want to say at some point, I think Richard Hagerman reached out to what is his first name? I can't think of what his first name is, but Polly Klaas's dad, which is not something they necessarily cover here, but Polly Klaas was kidnapped and murdered famously, and her parents went on to be very big advocates as far as child abductions, being able to get together kind of like resource centers, a command center, phone calls, flyers, the whole nine. So he actually flew out to Arlington to assist with them setting up this command post and trying to get the word out about Amber's disappearance.
Okay, that's dope.
Yeah, I didn't know that at all. That is dope.
I didn't know that.
But yeah, it was a big thing. Like it's like, but you hear them talk about it throughout the documentary. How it sucks that there was so very little physical evidence that it would have been great if there had been some way to get everyone alerted within the first few minutes since this happened that there's a black truck with, with this child missing in it driving through neighborhoods, and maybe somebody would have kept an eye out for it. Like you said, they're on high alert looking for an unaccompanied child or a body. And if they would have known earlier, they would have been on the lookout for this black truck.
Right. Okay. So did we want to talk about how the body was found, or do we just want to kind of go into like who are the suspects and shit?
I mean, we was kind of. I mean, we can talk about how. I mean, well, I don't know. It might be a trigger warning for some people. We can skip over if y'all want. It's up to y'all. Because I think it's important. And again,
go ahead.
No, go for it.
I mean, she was found She was found face down, butt naked, and where she was, she had to be put there. What they said, the way that her body was decomposed because of the amount of water that rushed over her, she literally was stationed in the same place for pretty much since the day she was missing. She had to be there for at least 3 days when as much water was rushing over her. And I'm just like, nobody walks by there.
And her neck was slit.
Yeah, neck was all right. So they did say they couldn't see any signs of any SA.
Sexual assault.
Yeah, right. So
which is interesting because
but I still didn't like the way he tried to play it in the sense of make sure everything good, but dude really was like, but yeah, just because we didn't see any evidence of it, like he pretty much was trying to say that every time a case like this happens, that's the reason that they go so hard about it. And I was like, yo, that's like the way he said, I was like, how about we just go harder because it's a kid missing, bro? Like I don't want to happen to a kid either, but like,
right. Yeah. I mean, but at the same token, a lot of times that is why kids are abducted, unfortunately.
You're right.
It's either that or somebody can't have a kid and they need a kid and they want a kid real bad.
Like, people can't.
Those are the only two.
Time, bro.
Yeah.
People can't have babies all the time. Did I tell you about the time? Never mind.
But
I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Also, the whole situation about there not being sexual assault is interesting because typically what they say is that a body being submerged in water that long typically washes away any evidence. So she could have had it. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like when your body decomposes and stuff like that, when you see those levels of decomposition, especially water that sits in specific places or runs over specific places, sometimes it's very difficult to really kind of figure out what happened. Like in this case, her neck was obviously slit. She wasn't a skeleton. They could tell that she had been and had her neck slit. But there's not blood, there's not all of that's been washed away by the water. So it's not to say, which I don't know either way, but it's not to say that it did not happen, just that there's no evidence of it. But she was in the creek. So it's very possible that it did happen, because when you think about it, really, what other reason?
That's what I'm saying. Like, what other reason do you? It sucks. Like, it sucks. Like that. This is like reality,
but it's like, but that's the reason that they're taking children. Like, men are not abducting small girls because they just want to have a daughter.
So they want to like raise them and like make sure they go to like fucking Harvard and shit. Like,
that's not what they're doing. And, I don't wish that was what it was, but also considering the other circumstance in this case, maybe you do wish that's what it was.
Right. I kind of see your point. Like, at least she would have came home. Like,
or she just had a new home and a new name, you know what I'm saying? Like, but generally, like, dudes are not.
Are you seeing the ones that kidnap them and raise? Like, remember those people that kidnapped those kids because they was getting abused and they raised them and the kids became like the best kids ever?
Yes,
people got caught and still went to jail.
Like the one black girl that got stolen. And then like when her mother got caught and shit, like she still like she goes and advocates for her other mom, her fake mom, because she's like she was a great mom,
like she raised her right. And then she said and basically like she said her old family had bad vibes. Like that was super weird.
That was strange because she couldn't get along with them, and so all of a sudden they have bad vibes instead of like maybe like you just don't really know them yet. Like
Yeah, like she just wanted, you know, like she just wanted her life to go back to what it was. And I get it. Like that is a lot to process as a person.
Yeah, it's a process.
But she was very adamant, like, I don't fuck with that. Like,
I don't really like these niggas.
Like, sister, like, you need to just let it marinate a little because this sounds premature.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, so that's the point that we're making is like there was no evidence of it, but like what else could have happened?
You're right. No doubt. So after this,
okay. So my first thing is like, okay, so now we know where we found her.
Right.
How do we
in relation to where she got caught too is less than a mile, ain't it?
Was it
from where she from
not a mile? It was like a couple of miles,
like 6 blocks.
So I want to say it was like 3 or 4.
It's like maybe 3 miles from where she originally.
Oh, miles for real?
Yeah. I think 3 miles from where her grandparents lived is about where her body was found. So where she was abducted from may not quite be 3 miles from there, considering like it was
right.
Like the grandparents in relation,
she ain't go far.
Right. This whole situation occurred in like Chris said, like a 6-block radius.
Yeah, in the radius. Okay, bet that's what. All right, bet.
Right. So I'm sitting here like I'm busting every fucking apartment door down in that bitch, and I'm asking everybody specifics about where the fuck they were. Like, and I'm holding lamps on people's faces, and I'm doing all of that because like I feel like when you have apartment complexes that have like things like that in the back, not many people who don't live in that complex know that shit be there.
Especially in the fucking 90s.
Like you move into an apartment.
That's what I'm saying.
Like you don't know.
You move into an apartment, you walk your dog, or you taking your kids around, and you're like, "Oh shit, it's a whole creek back here, my nigga." Like that's how you find things like that.
Right,
like that's not. Those are
the people don't even walk you past there on your.
No.
You find some cool shit that's not a listed amenity. It's because you're just back there walking around, unless they name the shit like Silver Creek or
Hidden Creek, like
running waters and shit, right?
Yeah, but like
about the hidden Silver Creek.
But when it's just Hickory Ridge or
you know what I'm saying, like Babylon Brooks and shit, like okay, like but generally, like those kinds of things, the only kind of the people that live there are the people that know or have access generally to that.
Right.
Yeah, so you either your house backs up to the creek, so either you're on the other side of the creek and that your house is right there, or
you're in those fucking apartments,
or you live in the apartments. Because why else would you just fucking be back there and be like, oh, it's a creek? Like,
yeah,
right. Okay. I'll use this for later. Like, okay,
I'm like, bro, you know, I don't mean, I guess like even dude walking this door, like I guess it was raining a lot a couple of days before, so you probably not gonna walk your dog down to the creek. You're gonna let that nigga just right outside the front door. But you're right, like for it to happen the way it happened, somebody had to see something. Or unless this was just the most wildly plotted thing in the world. Cause like, bro, like you don't just wake up and be like, you might wake up and do this, but you don't just be riding and be like, yo, I'm about to hit the Dairy Queen. Damn, I missed the Dairy Queen. I'm so pissed off that when I bust this I just want to kidnap a fucking kid.
I was gonna grab this girl.
Right.
Because I really needed this Winn-Dixie to be open. I'm so outraged. And this is my chance to get revenge on Winn-Dixie. Like,
you know what I mean?
I really feel like they do like go like I feel like she
because like you just mentioned something that I know that they didn't fucking do. There is another side of the creek.
They didn't go over there. I'm sure
they didn't go over there. They didn't mention it.
All we heard about was the complex.
The complex. So on the other side of the creek, it's either got to be a forest or houses.
Houses.
Which also, I'm just gonna ask the question because I was kind of in and out of this. Like I said, we went advisory, like shit was weird. With the cable and shit. But did they not run like vehicle registration records?
I never really heard.
They didn't say that, did they? Okay, I was just making sure I did not hear that because I'm sitting here and
they were just looking for black trucks.
Which is so
that shit was a hit, bro.
I don't. It in a night, which maybe it was different in '96, but vehicle registration here is, like I don't. Like you have to get
a black truck way quicker than waiting for somebody to make up a fake story. Hey, yo.
Yeah, because I mean you have to get your car inspected. And then once you get it inspected, you take the inspection and then you go to the DMV and they give you a registration sticker. Is how it works here. So
that's what I'm
saying. You have a record of everybody with a registered Ford in the county that are like why wouldn't you start there? I don't. It's almost like they didn't want to find it. You know what?
I'm telling you,
okay.
This is why they don't be. This is why I say they don't be doing their job.
This was all set up.
So. Remember how we said that her mother was a single parent,
right?
The dad is still in town, right?
Right. Yep.
Okay, Richard. So now, because we're talking about suspects, right? Because we know for a fact that they don't really get along. Is it possible that Richard was like, I'm taking my fucking kid, but why wouldn't he take both of them?
I don't think Richard took her, and I will say that because I get it. Like, I firm believer that if somebody goes missing or murdered in your family, the cops come in to look for the people closest first, and that is actually a very, very good strategy. Because typically, the people closest to you,
most kidnappings happen from people that are close or know the family,
know the person,
or in it.
Yeah, they're typically not stranger abductions. So when we have like these true crime stories and it's very sensationalized, like it is a cautionary tale for sure. But please understand that most of the time kids get kidnapped by acquaintances, somebody in the family that knows them or has been around them or seen them in some type of setting that they were comfortable in. It's very rarely stranger abductions. But I don't think the dad kidnapped her, and I say that because we get this piece of audio early in the documentary where the mom calls him like breathless, crying, screaming, begging for this man to come help her because Amber has gone missing. And if you have the type of ex that is capable of stealing your kids, you know that they are a kid stealing motherfucker off top. You know what I'm saying? Like that's you know that motherfucker is capable of stealing your kids. That's not
he probably did it.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
I said, he probably did it. He probably had something to do. You ain't even calling him to ask for help. You just like, yo, fuck that. No, I get what you're saying.
Like that lady called, crying, screaming, begging this man to come help her find their child. I just really don't think that he had anything to do with it because she was, unless he was some kind of molester, pedophile, or something, and they're not saying.
Right.
Just you said, what reason would he have to take his own child? It doesn't sound like they didn't get along, but it doesn't sound like there was some type of weird custody situation. It doesn't sound like she was keeping the kids away from him. There's really
she said he still came and spent time with the kids. Like it was nothing.
Nothing that would trigger him to try to steal her. And then the thing about it is that if that's her dad, he could have just told her, hey, I'm going to take you back to mom's. And she would have just gotten the truck and he could have just put the bike in the back.
Right.
Like there wouldn't have been a deep snatcher. Right. So I think he's not really a viable suspect because it doesn't really match up to anything that we know about him and what they've said about him. I mean, I could be wrong, but it just...
No, you're right. I get it.
I mean, he was all too ready to help. And typically, motherfuckers that know they did, I'm not saying they don't come out and search, but they seem to be a little bit less reticent to help the cops if they feel like they got something to hide.
I don't know. Well, I mean, you do the murder podcast. So
apprehensive, I'm not apprehensive. I'm not saying lawyer up and not say shit because sometimes they come out and search. There, I've heard there's a case where the guy was all on the television with the mic, hot mic,
helping, yes,
fist and love the girl.
We did that one.
No, I'm talking about it's a case about it. I can't remember her name, and I'll find it later. But basically,
it's a bunch of things that happen like this.
Yeah, it was a lot. She was a law student in an apartment complex, and basically the apartment complex super raped her in the middle of the night, chopped her body up, and dumped her pieces in trash dumpsters. But then was on television with the news. I mean, sobbing and crying about how much he loved her and how great she was, and my God, he hopefully found her. So. I'm not saying that sometimes people don't put on a great performance, but
that's a little extra. Yeah.
He just didn't seem like he murdered his own kid and was to me like it.
No, and I totally agree with you, but I do bring him up because of his friend.
Yeah, buddy. His homie. Now, if I had to pick somebody,
Mike Thompson, right?
It's definitely. Yes. I feel two people involved, but Mike Thompson would definitely be one of them if we had to choose suspects. Mm-hmm. Yes, I don't believe her father had anything to do with it, but I believe in access to the kid knowing you enough to where even if you did snatch him off the bike, enough to where she wasn't. Because think about it, if a strange truck come close to you, even if you get tucked, you about to try to book it first. For her not to even book it, you know what I mean? Maybe he pulled close and just talking to her, and then you surprised or whatever. I don't know, but I do think Mike Thompson had something to do with that.
That is a good point, and she also wouldn't be screaming if her daddy picked her. You know what I'm saying?
But yeah, that's what
I said. Right.
So right, you yanking her.
It's very easy to take your. You know, if it's your child, you can very easily just tell your child to get in the car, and most of them will like. And so unless you, but like I was telling Penrose while you were on camera, I was.
Oh no, I can hear you guys.
Yeah, I was like, that's craziness. Like you don't.
Yeah.
You know if you got an abductor as an ex. You know
if you got an abducting ass baby daddy.
Yeah, you know.
But, so Mike Thompson is a friend of the family. He drove a black truck, and how we just mentioned the case that VJ was just telling us about. Sometimes when people be doing shit, they still like to be in the mix like they wasn't doing shit. And he became like a spokesperson for the family that nobody even asked you to be.
Right.
Right. He had to go hard and make it look, he had to look super concerned to throw off the investigation. He had to act very concerned.
Very concerned. Any way that I can help.
Yeah. Whatever you need me to do.
But his timing, the timing that they couldn't get in touch with this man, didn't nobody know where he at, matches the exact timing when she was abducted. And then there was something else, right? Something about I forgot. It was something else that pretty much tied him to him. But just like they said about everybody else, we searched his house. But they didn't say that. They went to his house. But these cops just dumb ass motherfuckers.
You be knowing those, what I'm saying.
Hey, you gotta know if you got an abducting ass baby daddy.
I mean, abducting ass baby mama, but I'm just saying, but you know if the person you had the baby with would abduct you know if they are an abductor. I'm sorry, you fucking know. You know, people like I didn't think he was capable of that, bitch. You know.
Do you know until it happens though? Until you shit like.
Oh,
like just think.
I think you still know. You know what a nigga is capable of.
So you're not surprised. You don't want it to be true, but you ain't surprised when they come home and they say, "Yeah, it's your boyfriend got caught, like stealing like flat irons and some shit." Like you just know he that kind of nigga. He the kind of nigga to steal stupid shit. So
I'm just saying, because typically that type of stuff is because there's some type of fucked up custody or you and the person don't get along.
Oh, so you mean abducting his kids only? You talking about abducting his kids only?
Right. Like I'm just telling you, like they're saying, he's a, they always point to the parent being the other parent being a suspect, but like, if you have custody with a person, like you said, you have a son, your baby mama not finna drive from fucking Detroit to stuff him in the fucking car. Like, which I mean, she can't because he's old as shit, but I'm just saying, like, she can't, but you know what I'm saying? Like, that just would be crazy. That lady, that's not no shit that lady is on. Like, your thought would missing. Your thought would not be, you need to call her because she drove down here and took him.
All right, real facts. You're right.
But in some people, that would be your first thought. You need to call because
that motherfucker came down here.
That bitch got in her car in the middle of the night and drove here nonstop.
And I know it.
To abduct. I know. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, the family member, that sounds like the most logical explanation because in my mind, if the kids are going somewhere, they're biking, right?
Right.
They go to this little parking lot. So reasonably speaking, this has to be somebody that kind of knows their habits or would recognize them driving by, right? Or somebody that's looking at them and then sees Ricky kind of bike off and she's there alone. But like you said, who would she trust enough to get close enough to her to pull up. She not notice the person pull up, and then they hop out and grab her, and she doesn't try to escape because she it's found 4 days later. But this person held her for some amount of time before they killed her. Not a long time, maybe
right, not a long time, but
so
yeah, maybe a day. Yeah.
So if you don't find any ligament or ligature or strangulation or any type of fibers on the body, then the assumption here is that she wasn't bound with anything. There's no sticky tape residue or anything like that.
Yeah, nothing.
So she's not being bound. So she's being held somewhere.
Yeah, but this person didn't have to restrain her to keep her from running away. Like,
right. So
or at least for what it seems.
So somebody she felt mildly comfortable with. So he might have said, oh, your dad told me to get you. We're gonna meet.
Dad lives with him. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna go.
Dad lives there. And, and this dude lives closer. If I'm not mistaken, this dude lives closer to the grandma than they do to where what's her name lived, Donna lived. So he's in that area, and it just for everybody else, even though, like I said, to me, they just gave shitty excuses on why people weren't suspects anymore. For him, it was like not case, shut, just close the shut or whatever. But this whole case was weird for me because of how it came or what came about before it, all of the scheduling, the details behind that, and all of that. So this just, and then like for the only person. There's a laundromat. And I can't remember. I'll have to look up what day January 13th, 1996 was. But
that would have been a weekend. It's either Saturday or Sunday because I remember Donna was talking about it and how it was like a weekend and they had a certain thing they like to do on the weekend. So they took the kids somewhere or something. So this is either Saturday or Sunday. But they were saying
it's going to be packed either day.
Right. And so that's what they were saying. But you also have to keep in mind, again, and I keep saying this, but this is Texas. And so the laundromat was probably full of people and they maybe did see something. But when you are facing the fear of deportation, you're not going to say that you saw.
No. I agree. But I'm just saying, like, in the essence of how they tried to play it, like nobody went outside. It was mad people outside.
Oh yeah, they were. I'm not. Somebody saw. They just somebody not willing to risk deportation to say they saw.
What you're saying, right? That's what they're replacing. The truth is, it was bad people outside, but because like you say, people facing deportation, and it could have been other things as well. Everybody is ain't see shit, so it's easier to say there was nobody there. Like you said, it's unseasonable. I remember out here. Those times in January where it would get 90 degrees. I don't happen as much out here probably as it does there. But like everybody's outside because just last week around Christmas, you was inside in the snow. And so out here, if it happens, everybody's outside. So I'm like, it's just very weird. In the essence that the only person that saw something is an old man from about 200 yards away. I don't know.
Are there any other subjects that you would like to discuss?
You say what?
Any other suspects you would like to discuss?
I mean, the only other suspect I can think is the dude that found her.
Yeah, and I think he just found her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He passed the polygraph test, so
he did pass it.
Okay.
Yes, you did. Yeah, it was Saturday. I thought it was the weekend.
Yeah.
Any other suspects from you, Chris?
No, I think old buddy did it.
The friend.
I just don't know. You guys all made like super good points, like about the fact of that. Who else would have been able to get that close to her to snatch her off the bike like that? And again, I wish that like we could like hypnotize the brother to like see what he's blacking out.
Yeah, he just blacked out because that makes sense. He saw something, but he don't want to remember it.
And to me, I would black out if it was somebody that I thought that I knew, or I thought that was a nice person.
Yeah,
as a young kid, he was. I don't know how old he was, but he was younger than 9.
He was 9. He had to be between 6 and 7.
Yeah, so that's just very crazy. But anyway, no suspects according to investigation. Yeah, I mean, everybody showed up to her funeral.
Yeah.
It was a big thing. And then we talked about the lady that made up all that bullshit. Yeah. And then after the funeral, Donna was just kind of like, you know, starting to advocate for shit like that to never happen to anybody else. Because, like, that's obviously not the first thing you want. The first thing you want is obviously you wish it didn't have to. You don't never want your kid to be the fucking martyr for these kinds of things.
You know, I never want your kid to be Johnny Gosh.
Yeah, no, not at all. Like
the first kid on a milk carton.
On the milk carton, yeah, yeah. You know, like nobody wants to have to be that fucking parent, but Donna was that parent.
Nobody wants to turn into America's Most Wanted guy or whatever. Nobody wants to fucking be
right.
What's his name? Walsh. That man been advocating.
It is a interesting conspiracy theory that he killed him. I don't know that I believe it, but if y'all ever care to look into that, son. Absolutely. So if you guys ever care to look into that, look into that.
I mean, we are personally already watching something off screen where we know a nigga killed his own son, so it's not above niggas.
Yeah, but that he's a piece of shit. I don't know. The Walsh guy doesn't seem like quite that shitty, but you know, he brought he did
American John Ramsey daddy didn't seem quite that shitty either.
They brought Busy Bone home, man. I'm not trying to do. Come on now.
Did you say they brought Busy Bone home?
Yes, he was abducted actually, and America's Most Wanted did a segment about missing kids, and that is how he was rescued.
Really? I did not know.
Yes,
and I'm gonna miss everybody. Oh man,
and he did miss everybody. That's why
he did miss everybody, but he was able to come home.
Love that.
That's
great. A Black History Month fact for your ass.
Yeah, okay, but
I had no idea.
Short, whatever. So basically, Amber is the reason that we have an Amber Alert, right?
Right.
A mom basically heard about Amber and she just was like, we want to help, but we don't know what we're looking for. The police didn't really give a description. And she was like, there's got to be some way that we can get this out and everybody knows immediately. So she partners with like the local area, like radio stations, and is telling them, you know, oh, well, we can do this and blah, 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 blah. And why don't we have these alerts or whatever, so that, you know, we can get them out in the radio station and people will know that this kid is missing right away instead of waiting for the news.
Right.
So this idea that she comes up with is what we know as an Amber Alert. And I think people realize that it is named after Amber Hagerman. But if you did not know that, Amber is actually also an acronym. And I think that's the part that gets lost. It's actually America's Missing Broadcast Emergency Response Alert System. That is what the Amber actually stands for, but it is also Amber's name because her murder is what essentially spawned its creation. And as of 2021, Amber Alerts have roughly saved about 1,111 children to date.
Oh, that's dope. I mean, it's a good thing to have. For sure.
I don't want to get into the politics of it because, you know, something good came from something very horrible, and we'll leave it at that because I've had my foot on the neck of law enforcement all episode, and then I would have to get into the president, and we would have to have a conversation about Bush and them crime bills and a whole bunch of other politicking.
We're just gonna leave it there. I'm saying the fact that it's something that you're not gonna make me believe that we just didn't always know, and not always know, but somebody didn't come up and say, look, we should have this, right? And that it literally took this exact chain of events. Like if this was not done on purpose, I would never downplay nobody's murder. But if this was not orchestrated, this had to be the most coincidental sequence of events that was just ever happened in the history of me. Like, this shit was just too.
So you still blame the documentarian? You think she's a plant?
I blame who?
The lady who Pam.
The documentarian.
Yeah, Pam.
I mean, I'm not necessarily so. I'm blaming somebody that, again, whoever had enough power to do that social experiment shit they did with them 3 boys and all them other twins and triplets they said they did it with. Whoever had that much power to be like, look, we're gonna do this, that, the third. I'm not saying that the lady who shot the documentary had something to do with it. I just find highly fucking coincidental that you follow these people for 5 fucking months and she gets kidnapped right when you done. Come on.
Well,
and then they
find it. He thinks the nigga with the boomstick did it.
I mean, that's what I was gonna say. Who do you think the boom mic operator did it?
Like, I don't know who I know. I still
like, who do you think did it? Like, whoever was editing this shit together, like, dude was watching hours and hours of footage of this little girl and was like, I must find her. Like,
I have to have her.
What's her name took her for real. The friend definitely took her.
Okay.
The shit just, I'm just saying, the way that all of this shit went, it just seemed way too. This is like,
okay. Just throwing something out there.
Life is stranger than fiction.
Maybe it was just a series.
Life is stranger than fiction.
Or maybe the family friend used this opportunity to try to frame one of the nigga with the boomstick.
Let me tell you, yes.
Okay, so Amber's plan happened October 30th, 1996. VJ told you all about the acronyms and all that shit like that, but it also just happened to be her name.
Yes.
Did we miss anything?
No, that is the story of Amber Alerts. It is horrible. It is still an open case. It's a cold case, but it's still an active case with the Arlington Police Department. I don't have their phone number. Certainly, that is something that you can Google if you have any information or leads that would lead to the arrest or apprehension of a suspect in the murder of Amber Hagerman. Yeah,
sure.
Please reach out.
All right, guys.
Please reach out to Arlington PD.
Yeah, Amber Alert was
niggas do their job.
What is it?
Amber Alert was. Do you remember what the Amber Alert was before the Amber Alert? It's 9 o'clock. You know where your children are? Y'all remember that?
I was about to say, yes. I was about to say, or somebody mama yelling off the top of the porch, like, that's the Amber Alert. Amber, bring your ass home.
Bring your ass home, and then they put your grainy picture on a Kinko's poster.
Yes,
and
for real. Like the worst picture. Anyway, all right, guys. I'm gonna go convince them to let us cover fucking the Murdaugh murders next time. So hopefully I get them to do it.
Convince me. I'm ready.
Okay.
One right there.
Oh no, it's up. We good.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Super excited about that one. Okay. I'm Chris. That's VJ. That's Penrose. We're all docked up, and we'll see you guys next time. Okay, bye.
Better than the Arlington PD.
Yes, you can count on us better.